Hello.
Good evening and welcome to November Foxtrot. We're joined this week by Dan from Hades Airsoft. From Hades Airsoft, or is Hades Airsoft? Let's establish that first.
Well, at the moment I am Hades Airsoft, but who knows, in the future I may be from Hades Airsoft. It might get a bit bigger. We'll see.
Ooh, cool.
I am Hades Airsoft.
I like that there. That's it. Yeah. End of fucking interview.
Yeah, that needs to be made into a patch, doesn't it? That's a patch. That is right.
Thank you, good night. Much love.
So hi everyone joining. We've got call sign Chewbacca, Kenny, Defiant Events, Matthew McCarthy, Les, Adventures of Zulu. So welcome.
Welcome. Oh, it looks like we've got Facebook back this week. All good in the hood. Well, everyone did think it was yesterday, it was Wednesday, so they may well have thought today's Thursday for all we know. And then they've missed it. So
to be fair, I'd love today to be Thursday because that means tomorrow will be Friday, and then it's the end of the week.
Woohoo! So, I'm going to clay pigeon shooting Saturday as well.
Oh, nice.
Not with pistols, obviously, shotguns.
I was going to say.
A bit tricky with the shotgun.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I'd be really shit. You know, I'm just shit with a shotgun, but with a pistol, really shit.
He has the child ones that fly like 2 foot in front of him.
No, it's just that I can't get the string long enough for the cork to go far. Pistol would have to be about that long to take the amount of string that I'd need.
Hi Dale, hi James, hi Joel. Welcome. If anyone's got any questions for Dan throughout the show, if you can, feel free to whack them in the chat, but just put a little Q on the start of the question. It just helps me identify them as we're going along. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so as the guy said, my name's Dan, and at the moment I am Hades Airsoft. And yeah, I'm living out in Gran Canaria in Spain at the moment, Canary Islands. Been playing for about 5 years now, maybe nearly 6 years actually. Yeah, mainly Milsim, but do just a little bit of regular airsoft here and there.
Cool.
Okay. Nice.
Team Myrmidon, hello. Hi Daniel.
Welcome
First
along,
time
James.
watching live. Well done.
Hey,
hello.
Good man. Well done.
Oh, well Dan.
Should we roll into some news?
News and
news.
Let's roll into news.
I take my gun and I go pew 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 pew.
News. So first bit of news this week is we've released a Valentine's Day single. It's available for download on our website. It is
Interesting.
probably not something that you're going to rush out and download, but it's. We thought we were funny.
Yeah, I reckon it's a classic hit already myself. You know.
It's number one in some country somewhere.
It's got to be. Someone's got to have downloaded it by now.
Down in the Arctic Circle or something like that. Other news that I've got. So I know there's been a load of messages coming into the channel about various bits and pieces. So the first one is Prepper's Shop. I think the code has recently been not working. I've checked into it. I actually spoke to Prepper's Shop today, so we should be having that hopefully up and running fairly soon. And then other messages that have come in, we will get around to replying to you as soon as possible. It's just been a bit of a backlog at the moment.
Yes,
so apologies for that.
We're working through things.
Gents, any news from you guys?
Purchases, yes, but not so much news. I bought
purchases and news.
I got a new Woodland DPM smock because my other one's too big for me now. So I ordered a new one in a 170-104. It's a Soldier 95 pattern. So it's like one of the, like Dan was saying, it's one of the first, obviously, with the Velcro on the arms. A bit of old school there. Last of the old school, shall I say. So yeah, big love. So well happy with that. And oddly enough, I will mention it, I got a free copy of Soldier magazine wrapped up in there as well. So I can't remember the seller's name on eBay, but thanks for that. And it's actually, oh yeah, Soldier magazine. Who indeed?
We're going to have to take those buttons off here, Mike.
It's got some ghillie stuff in it in there as well, man. So yeah, I'm going to have a little flick through that later on when I'm in the bath. I mean, when I'm on the way to work. Yeah, lovely. So that's my. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Prepper Shop ordered some bits and bobs, some chocolate bars and stuff, and Biscuits Brown packaging's changed to brown instead of shiny green. So that quite upset me, because I quite liked it. It's quite exciting to find a shiny green packaging, but there you go. So yeah, just ordered some stuff for upcoming events pack out the old belt kit. So yeah, happy days. That's my bits and bobs. All good.
Cool.
Anyone else?
Cool.
I got my pistol back from my tech, who put hot rubber in. Hey, that's it. That's my news. My life.
I reckon
is
I could
really
probably have
boring
done
at the moment.
And I'm shit at techie, but I reckon I could have done that.
Oh no, but I am really shit.
No, I'm terrible, Andy. I get everything done for me.
I do that as well. It just sounds like a really easy thing that could be done. I've never done it. I'm not saying I have done that, but I reckon I probably could break it.
Well, I'm the sort of person that goes, delicate, hammer. And the two don't normally combine well. as
if it can't be fixed with a hammer, then I don't want to own it.
No, I don't want to know.
That's why I bought a beaten up old Shogun Sport, because I can fix lots of stuff on that with a hammer.
Yeah. Your toolkit for that is a hammer and a 22mm spanner. That is it.
Yeah. And I've got a bolster as well for knocking off sheared nuts and bolt heads. Yeah, right, I can take that out now. Just weld it back on afterwards.
Around my house, if something breaks, then I'll generally have a go at fixing it. But if my airsoft guns go down, I'm not touching them. They can go off to someone that knows what they're talking about, because I care about them too much.
Yeah, like we mentioned before, it's like trying to carry out heart surgery on yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't do it, would you? No, stupid.
Oh, nice. Well, obviously, we're going to be talking to Dan this week, so if that's the end of the news, Lance, do you want to kick off the first question?
I can indeed. So, Dan, now we've got you undivided attention. So what's your background, obviously you're in the forces, or currently in the forces, or were in the forces, so it'd be great to hear a bit of background on that. And obviously, did you start playing airsoft or just getting into it whilst you were still serving, or afterwards, or what was sort of the crack there, sort of thing?
So I've been out for about 5 or 6 years now, so 2017, and I got into it pretty much straight after leaving. So I was in the army for just under 9 years, and had a good time. It was just time to move on, and just got into airsoft. When I moved out here to the Canaries, I'd not really ever done anything like that in the UK, and just was hooked pretty much straight away, obviously. It's been sort of history ever since.
Fair play, nice, good stuff.
I've already got some questions coming in from the chat, so I'll bring some of those in as well. Team Myrmidon says, Dan, what's the best lesson you learnt in the infantry that you have used in airsoft? Also, it's a bayonet, not a sword.
Can you block them? Can we block Myrmidon for that question? No, they're good guys, actually. They were kind of they sent me one of their original patches, so they're good guys. I would say the best lesson I learnt in the infantry is it is called a sword. But unfortunately, we can't really use those in airsoft. So, I
suppose you could, as long as it was rubber.
yeah, you could do. It wouldn't quite be the same.
No,
I don't think it would be quite the same. But, I guess best lesson. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, admin is obviously a good one, because whether we're doing Milsim events, or even if it's just admin on just a normal game day, like you've got kit. If you've got kit everywhere, you're going to lose it. And back in the army, it means perhaps the mission isn't going to go quite as well, or somebody's going to get hurt within airsoft and Milsim. It means it's going to cost you money. So when I talk to people about admin, I say, look, in airsoft and Milsim, think about your pocket rather than getting all dramatic with like it's going to cost somebody's life, because it's clearly not. So I would say just good admin is going to save you money over time, I think.
Spot on that, mate. Fair play. Yeah. Like that.
To find events, say I like this guy. #admin matters.
Admin matters.
Question from Terry. Dan, which battalion were you in?
I was in 4th Battalion, the Rifles, which is now 4 Rangers, so 4th Battalion, the Rangers.
Fair play. Good on you, mate.
Cool. Right, I've got a question. So what's your main draw to airsoft then? Like, what's your, I guess, preferred style of event and sort of thing that you like to take part in? I know you said you get into a lot of milsims, but obviously people don't generally tend to start doing milsims. They obviously start skirmishing and then, I guess, naturally progress.
Yeah, I think it was the same for me as well, because although I've obviously got the background that I've got, I was still, as I suppose we're all introduced airsoft by somebody that's probably already in the hobby. Not many people sort of decide one day they're just going to take it up. I don't think. Maybe that's not the case. And so my journey into it was fairly similar, I imagine, to a lot of people. So it was, I mean, over here skirmishing is quite literally skirmishing. So we've only got one on this island anyway, one dedicated site. And once you've been around it a few times, it's obviously, you know, it's fun, but it's the same. So we're quite lucky in the fact that there's quite a few kind of abandoned kind of buildings or complexes or just areas of countryside that we can actually arrange games, or some of them are literally skirmishes where you'll rock up and see who's there for the day. So I just got into that kind of play first, which was pretty casual, and it was good because just having come out of the army, I could sort of wear what I wanted and try what I wanted and all the rest of it. And so although I did use a lot of kit that I, shall we say, found on my way out of the army, I did just out the front gate as on my last
strewn down the drive. I can believe it.
That's right. I did kind of, you know, push the boat out a little bit and try things that I wouldn't have been able to in the real world. But then actually I kind of gravitated back to using kit and equipment I was comfortable with while I was in. So that's kind of why I gravitated a little bit back towards Milsim. So even though if I do go to a skirmish game, I still kind of have a kind of a Milsim sort of you know, style to my own play, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you find that so I was just going to say as a follow-up, do you find that it's do you find skirmishes, I guess, frustrating from that perspective then, in that, you know, whenever we go to Milsims, it's like herding cats, and like, you know, you'll find that everyone just runs off, and we as a team end up just sort of like casually running a patrol, I guess, almost like round the outside flanks, to sort of, you know, we run it as a nightmare.
It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to your patrol to a location and it'll go end of the game. You're like, what the fuck? I just fucking got you.
We've got one side, skirmish site, and the field. It's like the site, if you want to call it that, is amazing. It's got a good mix of CQB and open areas. But obviously, the people that go there, you can have all Milsimmers or all Speedsoft, or usually a mix thereof. So it can be a little bit frustrating when your style is not necessarily compatible with the other people that are there. But I think really at the end of the day, like we all have our own styles, so you've kind of got to pay the price for that, you know. If you pride, you know, racking up kills on a day, and that's the most important thing for you, then all right, you might as well you know, tailor your style to the site that you're going to. But actually I think we all like to put our own stamp on things, so you know, it can be frustrating, but then actually sometimes it's nice to break the routine and, you know, play a different style, or, you know, somewhat a different style.
Well, that kind of Dan Brewer's asked, do you prefer Milsims coming from a military background?
Yes and no. I mean, that it's hard to say prefer, because I can't here we can. I guess the sport is quite broad, so we can try a few different things. I mean, the big Milsims that we go to here, there's 2 big ones a year, and then there's a bunch of slightly smaller ones. So by the time they roll around, you're really pumped for them, and yeah, you obviously have a great time. But then I do like to that kind of skirmish play, or do a lot of training with my team and stuff like that. So I do enjoy the Milsims, but sometimes, like if they're a really good one, I can be like, fucking hell, this is like being back at work. And like you can slip, you know, when you're tired, you think like, why am I really staying up all night for
I've paid for this
to stay up all night.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I would say yes, but you know, there's times when I think like, oh, just, you know, you're paying for this nowadays. It's really, the roles really have reversed. So I would say so, yeah. Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah, fair play, mate.
Cool. So what sort of kit?
Oh,
sorry.
No,
you were going to go. No. I was just going to say, what sort of kit do you prefer to run? Like, do you tend to gravitate more towards the kit that you served in. Obviously, you said that you may have found some stuff on the way out accidentally, fell into your bag. But like, what's your preferred loadout at the moment? And I'm guessing, obviously, over there it's a bit. You've got the heat to contend with as well, haven't you? Compared to what it's like over here.
Yeah, the heat definitely is a factor. So you have to. This Sunday just gone, actually, it's a real kind of toss up between like carrying enough water to be functional and not weighing yourself down too much. So you definitely have to have that on point. But kit wise, so I got out just as things like Virtus were being issued. So obviously I wasn't going to get issued the new helmet and body armor because I was on my way out. So when I had the opportunity to acquire some of that, I did. And so that's why you'll see me, my preferred loadout would be the sort of issued Virtus plate carrier and helmet, but obviously tailored to my own kind of style. And then the kind of whole shooter's belt revolution, again, as I was transitioning out of the army, that was really coming in. We'd had shooter's belts and molly belts for a while, but I personally hadn't used them that much. So I found it's been a way to kind of try and keep current, if that makes sense, and just look at what blokes at work are still doing, and talk to them and say, like, why are you doing this? Why does that work for you? And bounce ideas off of them, which I find, which is a nice aspect to the hobby. So at the moment, if you look at my average loadout, it's fairly accurate to what the British Army infantry are using at the moment. Obviously just tailored to my own specifications, I guess.
And how have you found that, Dan, with like the whole, like you said, you didn't really get much of a chance to use like a shooter's belt, if you like per se, like the actual shooter's belt itself as we see it today. How do you find that, obviously using it out, obviously only obviously using it in airsoft situations, but do you find that would have been a huge benefit to you when you was in compared to what you had like when you were serving, sort of thing? Would that have been a set, I think, cool, cross, I wish I had that back then? Or is it sort of like one of those?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So, like, obviously, shooters belts, first line belts, whatever you end up calling them, it's a kind of natural light roll evolution of webbing, which I'm old enough that webbing was bread and butter for my time while I was in, and I think it's all the good things about webbing without having to carry all the stuff that might not always be useful all of the time. Certainly for kind of very kinetic games for nowadays. So I think like we'd had even when like on my tour of Afghan, people were using like they were called molly belts back then, which was essentially a first generation shooter's belt. I didn't personally use them because I didn't really need it for my role, but I think definitely I would think that the shooter's belt is something that I would have used had I been in as they were really coming into force. And the way mine is set up now is, like I say, it's kind of ideas that I've bounced off of friends from work and for my own needs. So it's fairly accurate to I'd like to think, to what I would use would I still be, serving.
No, fair play, man. That's cool.
Do you ever get to, I guess, mix it up? So you obviously run a lot of kit that's fairly modern and the like. Do you ever do any kind of the more role-play, Op4 style events?
Well, because I don't normally, me and my team don't normally get selected for those, because over here there'll be teams that really enjoy playing Op4, whereas there'll be teams that don't as much, because obviously if you spend a lot of money, down a particular avenue, you don't really like getting told, oh, by the way, for this event you've got to dress like this and buy this. So the times that I have done it, I've got like chess rigs and stuff like that. So the times that I have done it, I've definitely enjoyed it, because it is that kind of it feels really odd to have been working with, let's just say, helmet and body armor for so long, really between airsoft and my time serving, it's like 15 years or something like that. So it's kind of it's interesting and it's nice to use, but in my mind I do just feel more comfortable in that kind of more realism focus mode. But having said that, what we're doing nowadays because I've kind of got two teams. I've got one, like I say, is more Milsim, and one that's more airsoft. So the line between those two teams was getting kind of blurred. So that's kind of why we developed the Milsim side, because people were just naturally gravitating to the more Milsim side. So we've really scaled back the airsoft side and gone, look, let's just make it whatever you want. No rules, no dress, code or anything like that. Just wear what you want, which is why you'll see me sort of wearing jeans or like the flannel shirts and stuff like that, and just mixing things up a little bit, because you can, although I feel comfortable in helmet and body armor, it can get a little bit stale over time. So I think it's good to keep it fresh.
And is that, so from what you just said there, Dan? Obviously, if you've got a few videos on your Instagram and that, is that what you and your team running, like the training days and things like that? It looks like some sort of quarry backdrop or something like that, where you're doing some like weapons drills and stuff like that. It all seems quite cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. It looks kind of like a big pit. We just call it the pit, and so in there we'll set up. Yeah, we'll set up some targets. We've got some metal plates, which obviously get that pling pling sound going, which everybody enjoys. Or paper targets, so we can actually analyze where their rounds are hitting, and for zero in, and all that sort of good realism side of life to try and bring them on. Because although obviously we want to enjoy what we're doing, people that join my team, there is a realism, and a kind of that knowledge side of life that I can bring to it, that if I know something about that, I'll do my best to inform you on it and develop you on it, and just make them feel like they're progressing really in the hobby, because because it is a kind of results driven hobby or sport. You either get the kill or you don't. You can have a really good game, get no kills, but you could have a really good game and want more. Everybody's different, but generally speaking, we try and train probably once a month, or whenever things are a little bit sort of, there's not much going on, I say, right, well, let's just train, and what do you want to learn, or things that I've picked up on in games, or things that some things we do every single time, just different weapons drills, like transitions and pistol work and stuff like that, because it's what you're going to use in a game. But then other times we'll do fire and maneuver, or a little bit of like casualty stuff, partly for the Milsims that we did, but also partly because it could save their life or somebody else's, so they might as well know it.
For sure, definitely.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So do you cover like also obviously when you say about your Milsims, I mean, I don't know how they run sort of in Gran Canaria, are they like a full sort of like 24, 36 hour op, or is there a break in between, like a battle simmy type thing, or is it you literally bash her up under the stars or wherever you're at? And so do you sort of taken your team through some bits and bobs of like you said about the admin earlier and things like that, or setting up a basher and like the whole DOS bag, divvy bag aspect and things?
Yeah. So the ones that we go to here is run by a club called Milsim, and they're really good. They're all civvies, but they're really good. And so we've got one actually coming up end of this month. So it's 31st, 1st and 2nd. 31st of March, 1st and 2nd of April. So that will be from sort of, we rock up at about midday on the Friday, and we'll get time to set up. So we've got bashers and everything, so that my lot will actually bash her up. We'll get our own little section of the patrol base, or whatever you want to call it, and we'll make that as close to a harbour as possible with the bashers and things like that. And then the event will start at about midnight, and that will roll through pretty much until Sunday morning. There'll be a little bit of a break on the Saturday, but it's fairly intense. And so when we started getting involved with those, I said, well, look, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it, right, so to speak. So yeah, some more ponchos were acquired, and yeah, for civvies they can put a poncho up pretty decently.
Fair play, that's always good.
Yeah, and actually it turns heads as well, because like the one of the recent ones we did, once my lot were done setting up, and actually because apart from a few extra bits and pieces, everything we carry in there we carry on our backs, so as we would at work, and so we're pretty much the first to get set up. So we then started setting up the sentry positions. We had a chainsaw, we was cutting down trees, setting up trip wires, and building up the little kind of fortified stag positions. So actually, when time came for that patrol harbour or patrol base to be attacked, I wouldn't say it was easily repelled, because not everybody knows why we do things the way we do them. But it wasn't too much of a challenge, because the commander of that of our sort of wider team came to me and said, how do we set this up? How would you set it up? Which is a fairly regular occurrence. So it was a nice triangular harbour, and yeah, it really turned heads really. So if we can do it right, then we'll do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
That sounds awesome.
That's cool.
I think we might have to take a trip to where are you again? Gran Canaria.
Yeah, that
Gran
sounds
Canaria,
brilliant.
Yeah, we might have to go over. Yeah,
well,
nice airsoft holiday.
A massive budget.
Just a little break, love.
This week there'll be a couple of people announcing that they're coming on the next one from the UK, and actually, you're more people that want to attend Milsim events over here can do. The first one's free. I mean, they're cheap anyway compared to the UK. It's a whole weekend's Milsim for €25. I mean, you can't even play a day game.
What?
Yeah,
it's like cheaper than a skirmish over here.
Cheaper than a skirmish in the UK. I keep telling them that they need to bump their prices up, but they're
no, tell them.
The first one's always free. First one's always free.
What's the crackdown with obviously getting your own riffs out there? Is it just not worth the ball ache and just use some rentals out there?
Yeah, correct. So what I'm hoping to do, apart from the fact that the people that are coming are friends of mine anyway, it is it's a big content, exercise anyway for everybody involved. So I've said that don't even bother bringing them out, and a shop that's locally opened up fairly recently that I'm sort of affiliated with, so to speak. They're going to be hopefully lending out some brand new weapons. So what I'm going to do is kind of as that trip is planned and then evolves, I'm hoping that I'm just going to make loads of notes about it. So that let's say you guys wanted to come out, actually the next time it happens, I've got everything in place that people from the UK that want to come and try, we've got like a list of accommodation or a list of people that are willing to lend out their riffs if the shop can't provide them, or where to get this, where to get that.
That sounds awesome.
So hopefully, I'd like to bring more players from the UK out here over time. So yeah, for this one certainly we're getting them lent out, and then as it evolves, then we'll see what happens.
Perfect, mate. But I mean, is it literally a minefield to bring your own riffs out to Gran Canaria?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah,
right.
yeah. So it's kind of like they're actually covered under a low-level firearms license over here. So you don't have to have it, but if you get nicked and you don't have this license, then life can be made a little bit tricky for you. So the way the police over here would look at it is you was going to bring in a shotgun, essentially. That's the way they would look at it. So it can be done, but it's tricky.
Right, there's a lot of channels to go through to do it, sort of like as it would. Right, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough.
Yeah, question from Silly Gilly. He says, "What's the average temperature there?"
Well, it varies. Let's just put it that way. So Gran Canaria is kind of like, it's got lots of microclimates. So where I live, right on the coast at the moment, I mean, I've got a jumper on. I'm cold, but it's 17 degrees. The computer's telling me, but we're in winter at the moment, so it's a little bit windy. It's a little bit rainy. But then, a mile away, it could be really warm, probably during the day at this time of year, mid-20s, something like that.
Oh, I'd love to be cold in mid-20s.
I know. It's terrible. It's terrible. But certainly in the summer, we've rocked up to games and it's been 40 degrees. That certainly happens. Yeah, for sure. So it's probably 9 months of summer. Let's put it that way.
What's the land like out there, Dan, for gaming in? Is it? Because I remember doing a few holidays out there, and they did like a jeep safari up around sort of like some canyony sort of areas and bits and bobs like that. I mean, is that the sort of area that you guys get to play in and like sort of like rolling hills, or is it like quarried stone sort of valleys and stuff like that?
It's a real mix. So the wider Canary Islands are very different. So if you go like Lanzarote or Fuerteventura, it's very kind of deserty and there's not much vegetation at all. Whereas Gran Canaria and Tenerife, it's really varied. So here we could play in a kind of, let's just call it a desert environment, or it could be a dense forest, or it could be very mountainous. So a lot of these milsims take place in the interior of the island, where it is very mountainous, very wooded. And actually the temperature up there I think they're forecast like highs of 17 or 16, something like that for that event. So they're all already, buying thermals and, all sorts of bits and pieces like that. But it's very, very varied, and that microclimate you could have rain and sun and wind all in one day, all in one game.
Yeah, no, fair play. I mean, it sounds like the perfect place to have a Milsim. I mean, you've got all those environments. I was just imagine Gran Canaria as an island, and it's just like sectors of this is woodland Milsim, this is quarry Milsim, this is desert Milsim. Just like this is where do I go today?
It's quite round, so whatever's around the coast is generally a bit more deserty, and then within the interior of the island, it's more mountainous and more wooded. But then in between that is kind of a bit of a mix. So, it's kind of like deserty, but with a mix of scrubland. So it is really varied. Yeah, you could play on the same kind of sites or fields, whatever you want to call them, for a couple of weeks running, and then you could have something completely different every single week.
Yeah,
that's really varied.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
that is cool. Very cool.
So with the kit wise, for obviously we've spoken about yours. What's obviously over here? It's US and Brit multicam. That's what everyone seems to wear.
Sure.
What's it like over there? Do you find that more players over there, especially some of the Spanish players, do they stick with their own nationality sort of kit, or have they gone down the same sort of route in regards to US multicam?
Yeah, it's pretty American, certainly for this very serious, like I'd call them reenactment teams, and there's some fantastic teams here that have gone to real lengths that you would not be able to spot the difference in a lineup, and that is predominantly American. Although there's a very good Polish team. I say Polish like they're reenacting a Polish team. There's a French Foreign Legion one, but I'd say predominantly American. We're the only ones that are doing. No, that's not true. Actually, I think there's a team that's took a break but's come back, and they do Royal Marines, but we're the only team that are doing kind of like British Army Milsim quite I don't know, quite fiercely, I would say perhaps. But there's a few Spanish. There's a new team that's come up very recently. They're like doing like a Spanish special operation. I mean, they're all special. That's the thing. Everybody is special. I don't know if it's like that in the UK. Everybody's special. I'd really love to see like just a regular line infantry unit just represented. Like I think that would be quite different to see.
That's one thing you do get a lot of Milsims in it. Literally everyone just turns up as if it's 2-2 or having a huge reunion.
That's right.
Or something like that, Delta Force or something. It's just like, where's the regulars?
Yeah, exactly. I'd say at least 60% American, and then perhaps the rest, maybe even more, probably maybe even 70% American, I'd say. But it's what people like, and
exactly, it's personal choice, and at the end of the day, mate, that's what makes it good. You just crack on and do what you do. Yeah,
that's right. But Multicam
like the logistics corps or something like that.
Yeah, an RLC team. Yeah, but Multicam here is the camouflage. Like it can't be beaten here because, as I said, the terrain is so varied. But and even especially on this island where it is deserty, there will be scrubland. So Multicam, it's hard not to wear it because it just works.
Have you rocked the desert DPM at all out there?
That's my favourite cam ever, and I won't be. I won't have my mind changed on that. So I do wear that where appropriate. Although I'd like to wear it everywhere. But no, I'm currently using probably a mix of MTP and just like normal Cry multicam that I think works. And sometimes I'll mix it up, and it might be multicam and DPM, which again is just to vary a little bit.
Fair play. There's a guy who does our memes for us. If we cock up, there's usually a meme within about 10 minutes of whatever one of us three have done. And Mark, and he's a huge fan of the desert DPM. So I think his loadout's currently full desert. There we go. Go on, yeah. So yeah. You're not alone in there at all, mate. No, I must admit that's one of my favourites as well.
I think everyone has a soft spot. The trouble is you just can't wear it over here because you just. Well, where is it?
You could.
Right there.
I've seen stormtroopers run around and play airsoft. I think you can definitely wear desert DPM.
I remember being at a skirmish day and I laid down next to Deadpool, so I don't think it fucking matters what desert DPM on. Yeah, smashing red tights you've got on there, sir.
Question from Daniel Brewer. Is there a big airsoft Milsim community out there then?
Yes, it's massive for the size of the island, which I think I think it's 2 million people that live in the Canaries as a whole. I don't know what the population of Gran Canaria is off the top of my head, but it's massive. So I'd say on any given, to quote the film, on any given Sunday, there's the main site, and then I'd say there's at least another 4 or 5 kind of pop-up skirmish sites active at the same time, with probably 30 or 40 people in each of those, and the main site will probably have 80 or 90 people, or probably more, run through it throughout the day.
Wow.
And I'd say, like, for this, it's probably, the island's not even as big as like Greater London, and there's at least half a dozen dedicated shops with a bunch of other stores selling airsoft kit and equipment. So it's massive.
That's impressive.
In Spain as a whole.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's one island out of 7, and it's popular. I would say at least on the 4 main ones. The 3 sort of slightly smaller ones, I'm not quite sure of. But it's certainly played on Lanzarote, Fuerteventura, Tenerife, and Gran Canaria quite widely.
Have you considered developing an island team and taking on the other islands? Not like pirates or anything. I'm not saying you should go across the galleon and storm the beaches of Fuerteventura. Slinging BBs everywhere.
So certainly, like, Tenerife is the other big, I'd say, like the big island in terms of population and size, and they've got 3 sites over there. So we want to kind of organise like either a day or a weekend trip over there to just kind of go around the sites there. People do organise kind of, there are some kind of like task forces that are made up of different Milsim teams that meet up on different islands throughout the year to do like training or events. But within Milsim this year, we're going to at least Fuerteventura and Tenerife on a Milsim. So you do get to go to other islands for events, sure.
That's cool. And so I'm guessing that's just an internal travel sort of thing, isn't it? Island to island, with regards to like your riffs and stuff. Perfect. All right, wicked.
Well. So that license I mentioned earlier, that is largely for transporting them.
Right.
So, but again, like going through the rigmarole of it, and that's every time you buy a riff. So every time you swap riffs or buy a new one and want to get it added to your license, you have to essentially apply for the license again. So I did it once, and touch wood, I've not been caught. Caught, so to speak. I just think, the crime is getting caught. So, as long as the Spanish police aren't listening to this, I should be fine.
I think you'll be all right, mate. Yeah, good chance of that. Yeah.
But no, just in the back of a car and on
Sergey from spanpolice.com and wants to ask you, where do you live?
They're outside.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, Dan. Let's bring in our special guest. Oh no! Could you imagine?
This is when you swatted yourself, haven't you? That's
exactly. Yeah. If we're getting nicked next time, then I'll know.
That's it, yeah.
One of you three's talking.
Was it the key to the city just going through the front door now? No, fair play, mate. That's cool.
So, one question we generally tend to sort of bring up time and time again when we've got sort of current serving and ex-serving sort of people on the show is obviously Airsoft has a bit of a reputation for water mitties and sort of being disrespectful and people wearing kit that maybe they shouldn't be wearing and the like. Well, what's your sort of viewpoint on that?
I think anybody that's recently bought a DPM smock should probably return it. No, I think. Listen, I think. I
got a copy of Soldier with it. I couldn't turn it down. All right, that's the only reason I brought the bloody jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's a respect thing, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, let's say you're either reenacting or representing a particular unit. You're doing it because you like them, you admire them, or you aspire to be them, however you want to term it. So I think as long as you're doing it with respect, then it's okay. If you want to, dress up with your, put on your tutu beret to go down Tesco's and tell them you were the first man on the balcony, then yeah, you're doing something wrong. But if you're gonna wear the odd flash or badge or whatever that's from a unit that's currently active, then just do it with respect. And I don't think imitation is a form of flattery. So I think as long as it's done right, then it's okay. As soon as things aren't done with that respect, then perhaps you should be having a little bit of a rethink of what you're doing and why you're doing it that way. Perhaps, I don't know. So I just think it's it also, it depends, doesn't it? Because the way I see it could be very difficult to the way different to the way somebody else sees it. So it's quite a tricky question to answer, but also that's just the way I look at it, I guess.
No, that's fair enough, mate. No, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. Just like you say, it's a fine line, isn't it?
I had to do. Well, we did a sort of a murder mystery thing at my sister's, and I was given the role of being some sort of commander or captain or soldier, some sort of general soldier thing that was quite highly ranked. So I went down to the local surplus store and I was like, look, I really want to like commit to this because I love dressing up and stuff like that. And I was like, what's the most least offensive stuff that I can wear? And I think I ended up with like a Remy cap badge on and stuff like that. And it's like avidly making sure that it was fully understood that this was purely just a costume.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, this is it. You're not doing it to masquerade, like I say, down the shops or down the pub as a Remy Craftsman. You're doing it as part of an event, and crack on. Why shouldn't you? Again, as long as it's done, I think, with respect, then go for it.
I mean, that's always sort of been my sort of thoughts on it. Is obviously I've never served or anything like that, but my thinking was behind the whole water mitty thing and all that is it's the whole wearing the medals and stuff like that and going to. I mean, there's got to be there's got to be something seriously amiss upstairs for someone to go to a parade or something like that and sort of think that they were when they weren't and stuff like. Do you know what I mean? That's to me, that's sort of like showing them a massive amount of disrespect.
Massively, because
like you say, wearing a beret and stuff like that to Remembrance Day or something, and you weren't even like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
And we see them a mile away. Like, it's so easy to spot them, and they will crumble under the least, like just the mildest of questioning. So, why set yourself up for failure like that? Especially like you say, Lance, like going to a Remembrance Day parade where there are going to be.
It's just amazing. The videos you see on YouTube of people who have been caught out, and you think, "Fucking, why the fucking hell do you do it?" You're obviously going to get found out. It's ridiculous. It just boils my blood. Really does. Team didn't put their MP cap badge. Those dudes don't have any friends. You can wear that all day long.
Military police, just go for it.
That's what it'd be. Now, next event would be military police against Op 4. Or they could be Op 4.
Just be everywhere.
That's an interesting one.
As you want with them.
I've never thought about that, but would you be done for impersonating a police officer if you went out dressed as an MP?
Right, they're not real police. Let's just get that straight. They're not real police, and even within the military, they can't act like. It's not even like they police the military as the regular police the rest of the country. So, it's and that they are. Don't get me wrong. That on tours they do actually have a really important role, especially on like Afghan and stuff like that. We had them with us quite often, and they actually bring something to the table. But in camp, they're just hated. Like they just make life difficult, and then they can't even back it up anyway when they want to. Just shocking.
Oh dear.
I feel like I touched a nerve. Let's move on.
Yeah, there was a
who anyone that's served will have sort of had a run-in with them, to a greater or lesser extent.
Yeah, I always imagine just like soldiers getting frog marched out of a nightclub or something like that by a band of military police. You tend to see it in the movies, and like you see, like, especially like in America, the old American films, you get band on their arms, just marching dudes out of bars that are all shit faced, and that is that sort of thing that goes on.
I think maybe like back in like Germany in the Cold War and stuff like that, they probably had a bigger role with that kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do anything of the sort nowadays. Which is probably a good thing, actually, for your Friday and Saturday nights.
Fair play.
Just going through the chat, there's a few few comments. So Team Myrmidon says Desert DPM is life. Kenny says I find that teams are generally more cohesive in Milsims in comparison to skirmishes.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Team Myrmidon said, mate, we pretended to be militant bakers at a Milsim. It was mint.
Militant bakers.
Yeah, you got to enjoy what you do. You got to have a laugh with it, haven't you?
And that's what makes the events, isn't it? It's how much you throw into it yourself as well. You know what I mean? Like, I know you can be standoffish, especially if it's like your first or sort of second event. But the more you throw yourself into it and sort of get involved and put yourself out there, mate, the more you're only going to get good things out of it. You really are. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think the more you know, like you said there, you get out of it what you put in, and it's quite normal for a new team or new members of a team to be. I don't want to use the word intimidated, but to feel perhaps that they can't get amongst it as much as they would like. But I do definitely think that that's part of the process. Like, you're always going to feel a bit nervous doing anything for the first, second, third time, especially where there's people that have been doing it for a lot longer or a lot better, or however you want to, grade that. So, just understand as well that that's natural, and over time you're either going to have fun and want to do it again, or decide that's not for you and move on to something else.
I remember our first team sort of proper Milsim at an actual designated area was at Longmoor. I mean it was just turning up there. I was just like, oh fucking hell, look at all these dudes. I was just like, oh dear, oh, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. But it turned out it was brilliant. You've got Big Mike from Legion, who just makes you feel welcome. You know what I mean? He's just a big cuddly bear, and we love him. And obviously all these guys that work with him as well. All his staff and that there. And like I said, any problems you ever had, it was a case of just like going up to them, ask a question, you'll get a sensible answer. You might get laughed at to start with, but yeah, other than that, it's all good. But yeah, you just made to feel welcome. And I've not found any Milsim event I've been to, like I can only speak for the UK, but where you haven't been made to feel welcome, really. A lot of the event staff and that have been spot on, and that from an awful lot of the events that I've been to. So yeah, it's a good little community, I think. I think it's a misunderstood community. I think the elitism's sort of dying out now, which is good compared to. Well,
I've only played twice in the UK, or 3 times if you want to include AI 500 as 2 different days. And I was.
That's not a game.
Sorry.
And so for me,
my earpiece come out.
That was an interesting event. I did enjoy.
Which one of those was it, Dan?
Here we go. Mike flies the flag for AI 500.
No. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just wondering which AI it was.
It was the last one gone, the one that was
right.
in.
Okay. Fair enough. Enough said.
Yeah. No, but having said that, at the end of the day, the way I would sum that up was, I think the leading up to it, everything was super professional, and the way the team captains, they did their live streams, and it felt really good. And I'd say the event staff and the team captains were all over it. It was just, personally, and with all due respect to them, perhaps the event venue was a bit too small for the amount of people that were there, and the unique nature of playing in that kind of environment meant that there was a lot of grey areas that needed repeat clarifications on, because the players were taking the mick out of it. So I think for the effort they put in, it's a 10 out of 10. It's just perhaps just a few different factors were fighting against them on over the weekend. But for me, it was like playing for the first time, because over here it's there's no zero distance, hardly any zero distance play allowed. So being able to play in that really closed environment, literally, with no thoughts on safety distance, it was really kind of liberating. So I still enjoyed it massively, and being able to speak in English at an event was refreshing. And we had to communicate with people. I speak Spanish, but it was completely different for me. So
did you speak Spanish to start with, and then go oh, sorry?
I think I slipped into it here and there, certainly in the heat of the moment, just out of habit. And then the last time was January now, just gone, South Coast Airsoft, after the JBG CQB event, and that was interesting down there as well, and that was a really good day. And yeah, it's just about getting a feel for the UK scene, because obviously so far it's only been through social media that I've been able to interact with it. So getting a couple of events under my belt over in the UK has been really interesting, regardless of the quality of them, so to speak. It was just
fair play, mate. That's cool. So going back there, Dan, what you just said then. So have you got a limit on your engagement distance, like you said, 0 engagement distance over here, which is fine, have at it. Sure. Obviously out in the Canary Islands, there is a limit of how close you can get regardless of what you're using. Oh, okay. Well, explain that, mate.
Yeah, so within Milsim over here, it's 5 meters for pistol. 0 meters for pistol, 5 meters for assault rifle, and then I'm a little bit rusty on the others because I don't particularly run them, but I want to hazard a guess at say 20 meters for snipers and DMRs, and probably something similar for LMGs. But in actual regular airsoft, so if we was to go to the site over here, it's 10 meters for just assault rifle. So the bang rule is you can clear whole rooms by just going bang 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 bang, which
blimey,
for me is not is not great, but that's the way they have to run it. That's the way.
And is that law? Is that an actual law? Or is that just the club's decision to do that at that particular site, or is it for insurances? Or
I would say at the site it's probably for insurance, because it's really big with tourists, and it's really big for rentals. So I think they have to be quite careful about insurance. But so for the Milsim club, they kind of play a little bit faster and looser with that. So it's like I say, it's 0 for pistol and 5 for assault rifle, which I would imagine is probably in line with the kind of the overall Spanish way or style of playing. So it's actually literally this Sunday gone was 0, and that's the first time I've played 0 distance in Spain in the 5-6 years that I've been playing, and that was great.
Fair play.
It was
cool.
really good.
So what do you have FPS limits and stuff over there like we do over here? So like obviously your snipers and your DMRs and things are limited, and so is your assault rifles. Is that similar to set up over there, or? So
it's 350 for assault rifles, which I think is the same.
Yeah, same over here.
I think is it 350 or 320 here, but the 350 is the sort of the upper limit of what we can have. I think that's the.
I think it works out at. Yeah, it's 1.3 joules, isn't it? Which is
it's all based on joules.
So.
Yeah, a lot of places over here are going to joules now rather than the FPS.
We're starting. So the site here, they run on joules. I think it's 1.11 or 12 or something like that. 1.13. I think joules is probably better because obviously it's not as variable across the different platforms and stuff like that. So I think it's largely in line. It's not like playing in Estonia or where it's like 400 FPS, 500 FPS on an assault rifle. Like it's fairly standard with the UK, I think.
Yeah, I think it's South Africa that has no sort of FPS.
South Africa don't give a fuck, mate.
Yeah, it's just like 6 million.
Just
FPS,
shoot till they cry.
Don't even need a BB gun. It's fine.
Just crack on.
Defiant Events have said, Dan, that you need to get yourself over to one of their events, and you'll never want to go back to finger banging one another again.
Listen, I'm very, very keen to get over, 2-3 times a year to the UK. So for the right events, then yeah. So yeah, send me a DM on Instagram, Defiant, and if I can make it happen, I'll be more than happy to. Yeah, for sure.
Happy days. That sounds good.
Yeah,
sure. Cool.
Just
free next month, are you?
Yeah. Well, I've only just come back, so I don't think I want to push my luck too much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just while we were talking about AI, I don't know if anyone's seen that they've got their new site sorted out for their next game, which is the abandoned shopping centre in Wales. It's been on quite a few TV shows, and there was a TV series a while ago that was like a zombie-based one.
It's not abandoned, Mike. It's just in Wales.
Yeah.
No need for that. Come on.
No, that's fine. It just looks interesting. Anyway, Les says, with us having a Yukara over here, how does it work over there for purchasing?
So I will answer that with a question. I know what Yukara is, but what do you have to do with regards to purchasing? Talk me through it, and I'll tell you how it's different.
So Yukara, you have to attend. Oh, this is a.
Is it 3 games within 3 months?
3 games, not within 3 months.
No, it's 3 games
over 3 months.
3 means. So you have to play 3 games
3 different answers from 3 different people
past 3 months.
over 3 months.
All apparently experts.
Yeah.
Who the fuck?
But basically, all you have to do is you have to prove that you are. So you don't actually need a Yukara. You can actually have a site membership. You just have to prove to the shop that you are an airsofter,
a regular player, basically, isn't it?
A regular player.
Yeah.
So you can't just go in and just go, oh yeah, I've looked at a YouTube video and now I want a realistic weapon.
So what is that to kind of police then? Is that with the orange flash eliminator on the end of it and stuff like that?
No, so we don't have to stick to that. So we have a two-tone.
I think it's more to stop just someone going into a shop and buying a real imitation firearm. Just any Joe Bloggs. I mean, obviously, that's what they're trying. That's in theory. You know, it's the certain shop can type it in and make sure that you've been registered to a site. They type the Yukara number in. It's more for the retailer than it is for the player
way it
itself.
works here then is, if you want to rock up tomorrow to Airsoft Canaries, which is one of the shops, and walk out with whatever you want, you can do that. And as long to go and play at the sites, well, then you'd obviously have to be in line with whatever their FPS limit is. And then, as I went, like what I said earlier about the kind of low-level firearms license, that's largely to do with transporting them, but actually, you know, the police do occasionally rock up if there's been a lot of noise in an abandoned area or something like that, or there's lots of houses nearby and the neighbours are fed up on a Sunday morning, then they can and have called the police. But as long as you're, you know, largely being respectful and not taking the mick, the police aren't, you know, they're not going to nick everybody. I mean, they, you know, people have had rifts confiscated or fines issued, but you know, it can be a little bit variable on that front. But certainly with regards to buying them, you buy whatever you want, and away you go. Yeah, kind of. I guess that's what you then do with it is the issue.
So you don't have any like two-tone rules or anything like that, because that's what the Yukara does, basically, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can do that.
You can buy a weapon, but it's got to be like a bright colour.
Is it 35 or 40%, or is it 50%? It's got to be
I think it's
a bright colour.
50% or something stupid.
I think it's 50%. I quite enjoy that the chat is also full of people that are coming up with different answers. So I have actually just Googled it straight from the Yukara website, and it says that you must do a minimum of 3 games over the minimum of 2 months. So the third game has to be 56 days or more after your first game.
And so once you've got this, you can then go and buy a non-two-tone weapon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes. That's correct.
But if you've got a shotgun or firearms license,
don't work.
If you've got a shotgun or firearms license, you still can't buy a non-two-tone weapon.
Okay, interesting.
Because it's not a defence that you're an airsofter, even though you could go out and.
It's like my mate Dan. Obviously, he's got a shotgun license, but because his Yukara's run out, he couldn't go and buy an imitation toy gun because he hasn't got a Yukara.
Yeah. No, I get it. You know, that some of them are so realistic. Just and again, like, you know, people that aren't clued up on them would not know the difference.
No, definitely.
No, that can
exactly.
be used for all sorts of, you know, dodgy, you know.
And this is the thing: is you're never going to stop idiots using them in a stupid way. You know, you're not going to stop having that Yukara. You're not, because they'll get hold of them somehow. You know, Christ, they can get hold of real ones.
Let's be honest. You can go buy a two-tone one and spray it up if you needed to.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I'm not advocating that, but like.
Sure.
Well, it's
not going to take you much time, is
it? But you know what I mean. You're not going to stop stupid, are you? You know, stupid will always be there.
No,
so
no. That's
as long as stupid doesn't hurt other people. It's the main thing.
But also, Yukara isn't actually a legal thing. It's only something that's been made up by a handful of shops, from what I understand.
The Yukarians.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about making money.
It all kicked out of the Violent Crime Reduction Act. Basically, the Act requires you to have a defence, and the Yukara system was set up as a simple database that, you know, they could register players on, and it allows you to prove that defence nationally.
I mean, when you buy a riff here, you have to give over an ID. They'll take a copy of your ID, and apparently that does get kind of sent across to the police, and so the police will have a big database somewhere, or a drawer in a filing cabinet, where they could say, you know, Lance owns X, Y, and Z, or Andy owns X, Y, and Z, and then. So with the Milsim events, we have to provide serial numbers and stuff like that, which I think that is to do with, like, I think theft is one thing, and also if any of them, theft, if any of them go missing and then are found to have been used in a crime, you can go, well, hold up, that's registered to me, or at least it was registered to me on this event where it went missing, that sort of thing. So it's not sort of like the Wild West, but there's certainly different rules.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Seems easier.
Question from Alex Hillary. What's the pyro like over there?
So pyro,
it goes bang.
It goes bang. It's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. It's a bit of a mixed bag. So there are like blank firing grenades as such. So like grenades that hold a little 9mm blank charge. But then I've tried to talk the shops into like stocking the Quake 8s, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do that. We're not allowed that." I thought, well, it's less of a bang than the 9mm ones are. So I've got some like Enola Gay smoke that is legal over here, and there's some that's not quite as legal. That is a little bit more of a difficult one to answer, because it could also depend on the day. You could rock up to the same skirmish site, somebody could throw a 9mm blank grenade into a room, and people will come out, rightly or wrongly complaining, and so, right, we're not using those for the rest of the day. There's no kind of blanket rule. I use like the thunder grenades, the CO2 ones, so they're kind of a middle ground, I guess, and legal. So yeah, a little bit of a mixed bag, to be honest, but not. I wouldn't say. What I would say is pyro's not used nearly as much as it is in the UK, from what I've seen.
All right. Do you obviously? Do you have to obviously with the heat and stuff, and like the shrubbery? I've seen some of the undergrowth and stuff. Do you have to be really mindful of where you're throwing it and things like that? You can't just throw it and run and just keep going. You've got to.
Yeah.
Do you guys have to wait until it fully burns out, or keep an eye on it, sort of thing?
So we certainly on this island we can have and do have very bad forest fires, and they can be set off from something like a dog end, or by somebody maliciously setting them off, obviously. So I think that's why pyro over here is just not part of the culture the way it is in the UK. So smoke is becoming a little bit more widely used, but even then you have to be careful where you throw it. And for that day, if we're in a really especially in the heat of summer, it could be like a forested area, but it's just so dry that it's just not worth, it's certainly not worth the risk. So that's the kind of gas grenades, the Chimera grenades. They're very popular. Thunder, and then I think the blank firing ones are popular because there isn't the actual ignition there, is there? It's just that bang, and it's contained within the grenade shell. So I think I think that's probably why pyro's not just ingrained in the culture here.
Something I don't think has been asked yet. What sort of kit do you run in terms of rifles and pistols and bits and pieces like that?
So it was my birthday this week, so I got a new 416 from Specna. Thank you. So
don't have a soundbite for that.
Brand wise, I would say. There you go.
Birthday fanfare.
There you go. I would say brand wise for rifles, Specna is my go-to brand, because I think it's good value for money on the kind of mid to mid-high end, if you want to call it that. But because I wreck stuff, and I don't want to spend 800,000-900,000 euros on something that I'm gonna trip over with or scratch up. So I tend to go for Specna to a bit of a middle ground. And then pistol wise, I've got a Humarex Glock 19, and I've got a Secutor Glock 17, which is CO2. For pistols, I do like CO2 for sure, for that extra bit of realism.
They're quite nice.
Yeah, those Humarex ones are nice.
Yeah, the Humarex one, I'd never had anything off of them before, and I was really pleasantly surprised. Like, the build quality on it is really good, and just straight out of the box. Like, I've not done anything to it, and I don't think I will. The Secutor one has had a few bits done to it, so the other one it performs, or probably almost as well as the Secutor. That's probably had another €100 spent on it. So I won't be doing anything to that one.
What's the pricing like out there? You're saying about €100, sorry, spent on your sector Glock. What's sort of the pricing for sort of like parts and materials and bits and bobs out there for your riffs and that, mate?
Yeah, so for me, it's quite kind of a hard one to answer because I've never bought anything in the UK riff-wise.
Of course, yeah.
So it's probably a little bit, it's probably a bit of a tricky one for you to answer. But that Specna 416, I think it's H series or whatever, that kind of level is. That was €365, which is about 350 pounds at the moment.
It's not too dissimilar then, really. I mean, there isn't a great deal of difference in the value, is there, at the moment? So
no, Christ, no, it's nearly 1 for 1. So I think it's largely on point, but things like ammo and stuff like that, I think is a little bit cheaper, I think, off the top of my head.
So do you guys have to use bios talking of ammo, or are you still just slinging plastic, or are they moving more towards bio?
The trouble is because most of the sites are these kind of like skirmish sites out in the wilderness, so to speak. Really, it's up to your own kind of eco conscience whether you want to use bio or not. I do use them more often than not. If it's a slightly more built up area, then I'm more comfortable using the plastic because it is just that, it's a built up area. But certainly for the events where we're out in the countryside here, I just think for the very slight loss in performance, I'd just prefer to use bio. Some events might specify it, but then are they going to go and check everybody's ammo? Probably not. So it's just down to your own sort of personal choice. And yeah, so in the UK, do you have to use bio then?
I don't think all sites you do. I think a few sites are turning that way. I mean, I personally only use bio BBs, but I do a lot of games at a private site, and that's part of the stipulation is to, don't mind you using the land, but only bio BBs are to be used on there. Which is fair enough, and I'm not going to disrespect that because I'm getting to use a lovely bit of land, 100 acres of it for doing essentially sort of what I want in regards to airsoft. So I'm quite lucky in that.
It's ironic, really, because the bio BBs probably aren't actually that much better. Like from what I've been reading up on them recently, it's mad that we're in 2023 and we can't come up with a new technology to come up with a good little 6mm plastic ball. It's bonkers that we can't find something that will actually properly biodegrade or is edible or something like that, maybe.
That's right. That's right.
Well, why not? It doesn't.
It's like cornstarch or something. Most of the bios are made of cornstarch and something else, but it just takes some donkeys to break down.
Yeah, with certain conditions and things as well. I think it causes an issue on that front, but yeah.
Probably with the heat over here, I don't know. I'm no expert on anything bio, but I would imagine they probably break down a little bit quicker. I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Dale says go bio and get your free Greta patch today.
God,
that's it.
Greta peddling her own BBs now.
Team Myrmidon says, Dan, favourite bit of load bearing ever used?
Ever used? Okay. I had some webbing from Dragon Supplies that cost me. Was it Dragon Supplies? Might have been Dragon. I don't know. I had a set of webbing that cost me about £400 once. And that was good. That was very good. And stupidly, I sold it. One of the very few things I did get rid of before I left. And then I was like, I probably should have kept hold of that. But to be fair, as I touched on earlier, webbing here, okay, on a Milsim, if you're going to live out of it, go for it all day long. But then I just, for myself, I probably wouldn't be a fan of lugging the extra bits and pieces around. But I do get that's the primary use of it, is to live out of it at the end of the day. So for a Milsim, then a good set of webbing, go for it. Otherwise, like other brands, I really like Warrior kit. I realise over the past few years, certainly within the Army, Warrior's not quite as on quite so much as a pedestal as it used to be, but some of their stuff is still really good for the price. And I just think, especially for this where it's going to get wrecked, then something mid to high range is probably best. So things like the like the shooter's belts from Warrior are really good for, you know, and mine's quite a fully decked out shooter's belt, and that just stays in place. It doesn't need a yoke or anything like that. So for load bearing, yeah, around the waist is still a good place to go.
Yeah, fair play. Nice. I do love a set of webbing.
Two questions came in, both from JBG Airsoft. So JBG says, "Who are JBG?" With the eyes, I'm assuming you'd know who they are. And they also said, "Will you be selling your Talon Day sack to me?"
Right, JBG is Johnny Big Gun, right? And they
Johnny
are
Big Gun.
Johnny Big Gun. They're a team of kind of ex-serving. Ex and still serving riflemen, so all from the rifles like I was, and they are a top bunch of lads, and yeah, they are really going places in the UK scene, so keep an eye out for them if you don't know who they are already. And Charlie knows that he's getting lent a Talon Day sack, and if it is not returned he's going to sign for it, and if it is not returned in pristine condition, he will be getting billed for the current markup that they are costing on the black market.
Talon Day sack. Oh,
yeah, that's a bit nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't say that, Dan. Not tell us how much they're going for on the black market, mate.
I reckon you could comfortably. Yeah, you could comfortably ask for probably about 350 quid, I'd say, depending on the condition.
Oh, tidy.
Yeah. They were hard to find. They were hard to find when they were being made, and now
is that a US brand?
Made. It's Camelback, so it's Camelback day sacks.
Oh, okay.
And it is, yeah, they are very, very good, and they were just very hard to find. Obviously, the height of Operic when everybody was buying them as well in the UK. And now that they've stopped being made, you just can't find them for love nor money. So, yeah, probably favourite ever bit of kit. So perhaps that is covered under load bearing would be the Camelback Talon Day sack for sure.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's one that if you've got it, you keep it, innit?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I've got the Camelback Motherload Day sack or Patrol Pack, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a 60 litre. It's a great little bag, that is, proper comfortable.
Really good day sacks, good day sack.
Yeah, nice.
I've got a bit of a problem with Camelback, like in a good way. I've got probably 6 or 7 main day sacks, and then an assortment of other bits and pieces. Yeah, I've got a bit of a thing for that.
You and Mike might get on there. He's got a weird fetish.
I love bags.
He loves bags.
We love
bags and helmets.
That's it. Bags and helmets.
Never have enough helmets.
That's it.
Andy, did you want to ask I think you had one lined up.
I had one question lined up. So, with the Milsim events, is there any? I can't speak now. Any underlying issues that nearly always rear its ugly head, like admin? And can you offer any tips for our listeners to like? How do you keep your admin squared away for an event?
Okay. So when you say like underlying issues, do you mean from like the event, like from other participants or the event organisers?
Or issues that you find that you constantly have with kit, or have you got?
I'm a bit of a tit when it comes to radio, so my comms always go down pretty quickly, and then I'm either
don't look at me, Mike.
Either getting one of my lads to relay all my messages for me, or just saying, just give me a radio.
I don't think Lance's ever start. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
I just like to leave it off to save the battery. That's my way I go.
And it's not even for like not spending the money on it, because I've probably had 4 different brands of radio that just don't work for me, or work for a little bit and then stop working, or don't tie in with what everybody else is using. So certainly for me, radios is always a big problem. And then with regards to admin, I just think on those events, like you're going to be there for a good few days or a couple of nights, however you want to look at it. And, as I said earlier, like it's going to cost you money if your admin is up your ass, so to speak. Or it's going to mean that something's going to happen. Like, there might be, you might miss out on something happening in the event because you're, trying to pack all your shit away from you know, having it everywhere and things like that. So I think the more squared away your admin is, the better event you're going to have. So my tips are always just things like just try and do a couple of things at once. So it's like the classic morning routine, you know, while your food's cooking in the morning, you can be doing something else. You can be cleaning your weapons or changing your socks, all that sort of good stuff. Try and do as many different things as once without having a bunch of different things open at once. And so like if you're going to do something like change your socks, then, you know, one boot off, one sock off, one boot on, one sock back on, then go. You just think to yourself at any point, like if I was to be, you know, compromised at the moment, am I in a fit state to respond? And if you've got, you know, 300 different things open and kit everywhere,
no boots on,
probably no boots on, or that sort of stuff. So, you know, just have that in your mind. Like if we were to be attacked right now, would I be of use to anybody? Or if I had to leave this area, would I then be leaving half of my kit behind to either, you know, have people, you know, keep for themselves, or, you know, am I going to be able to continue this event if I was to leave what is on the floor here right now? And the answer is probably no.
No, fair play, mate.
Yeah,
just pack away as you go, sort of thing, isn't it? Or like
just
sort of
try
one
and
in, one out,
have
sort of
one
thing.
thing open at a time, and one in, one out, perfect.
Yeah.
So
do you kind of
go to events and you see stuff all over the ground and like people
it's
just literally,
awful, isn't it?
the whole Bergen just gone.
I remember I used to be terrible, man. Especially if you had a tent, it was the fucking worst because you could just open the door and go, fuck off, and then zoop, right, let's go.
Yeah, just
brilliant.
Sling it all in. That's it.
And if you get bumped, just grab the tent and just run away with it.
Do you have your kit?
My sleeping on ponchos, I can keep an eye on it.
Exactly that, mate. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Terrible. Lad.
So do you always have your Bergen or your day sack or whatever you're running in regards to your kit? Do you always have that set up in exactly the same way, so you always know where your bag, like so your basher and your poncho are, say, in the left-hand pocket or something? Do you always keep it
100%.
set?
Yeah, 100%. So I've still got like an issued Bergen that's had like some of the adjustments, like the poncho pouch and stuff like that on the outside. But because of the climate here, I don't tend to have to use a big sleeping bag. So as Lance said about mother loads, is yours the older style one or the newer style?
Mine's probably with the older style because it's got to be 10 years old at least.
Yeah, so that's the one I use as my kind of Bergen, because I can fit like a jungle sleeping bag and a bivvy bag in the bottom of it.
Exactly that, yep, same as that.
Fold up a poncho and actually sometimes even have that like neatly rolled up and cable tied to the bottom. And then, so that's my main kind of Bergen, and that will be set up pretty much in the same way. I'll have pouches, you know, all over it, obviously, because although it's a big day sack, it's not as big as a regular Bergen is. And then it'll all be set up the same as, you know, I'm a creature of habit, so it'll all be set up the same as the way I was taught and the way I then went on to work with that sort of kit. And then so again, like in the dark, I can find where everything is without having to switch any lights on. And
No, fair play, mate. Nicely done.
Cool, mate, yeah.
It's just practice, I think. Like, you know, you can. Everybody will do things a different way and have different, different preferences. So, like, you know, if you're interested in that kind of side of Milsim, then talk to as many different people, serving and not. Because the thing is, like, just because you were serving doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the correct answer. There could be things that people who have never served do, and you actually go, hold up, that's a really good idea. Like, why was I never taught that? So talk to as many different people as you can. Like, ask them, why do they do that? Is it a cost reason? Is it because it's easier? Is it because it's safer? All that sort of stuff, and then just kind of adapt it to your own style and budget and all the rest of it, and just do whatever works for you.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was my question done. Thank you.
Catch up.
Nicely done. Andy. Lovely
A
question.
few comments in the chat. Terry says the thinking rifleman.
Thinking rifleman. Yeah. Right.
There's a book there, I reckon. There's a book there, Dan.
Maybe.
Defiant says Brew Kit gets its own Bergen. Dale says I'm literally a nightmare. I pack everything so tight it has to be packed in a certain way to fit back in. Just can't quickly throw it in. Really need to catch up with limiting better. I do wonder if there's an opportunity there for a business that just makes pre-packed Bergens. Like, there's your Bergen for the weekend. It's going to cost you £900, but you never have to think about it. It's got everything in it that you need.
Yeah, don't worry, just don't unpack it.
Away you go.
You send it back.
Yeah. You just return it at the end of like the weekend, and they just repack it as part of the service.
Yeah, I mean, like Dale's thing there. I mean, you will struggle if you pack something that tight and you're literally cramming it shut to get like your straps on and stuff like that, and your buckles done up. Then you're going to struggle to pack it up quickly. You know, you've got to have that bit of wiggle room in there. Personally, from what I found, I mean, I used to be fucking crammed and bursting at the seams. You know what I mean? No retention straps needed tightening because they were fully open. But then you sort of get to know what you use, and you know, do I need it really? You know, in all fairness, am I going to use this? Is it going to be a requirement? And then the buddy system as well, aren't you?
Well, yeah. So So if you're going to be bashing up with somebody, then you're not both going to need to take a poncho. Let's say you're not both going to need to take X, Y, and Z. So that's one thing. I think that's a good point. And then for what you've just said there, Lance, and what I think Dale said as well, you know, if that's the case, like anything extra you get given as part of the team or as part of the event, if you've got no place to put it, then that's not great. And I would also say, like, because you know, DaySACs and military kit in general, like, yeah, it's made to be hard wearing and tough, but you know, it's going to have its limits. And I've certainly, you know, hoisted a DaySAC on my shoulders and heard a couple of you know, seams pop and things like that because I've been given X, Y, and Z for a tasking. And you think, right, okay, just spent my hard-earned money on this, but you know, that's another story. I think, you know, always have a little bit of wiggle room for extra bits of morale or extra bits of kit, and then certainly after an event, say to yourself, like, look at what you took and say, did I use this? How much did I use it? Did it really make a difference? And then obviously, if you're going to go to an event that is, let's say, foreseeably similar, let's say like at the same time of year, the same kind of area, and say, well, I didn't use that last time, I'm probably not going to use it this time. Obviously not with things like waterproofs and, you know, staying warm and things like that, because the weather's going to change pretty quickly. So you need to look after yourself in that respect. But certainly you always have bits of kit that you won't be using on a regular basis. So just sack it off and see how you get on. And if you suffer, then you know that actually, you know, maybe it was essential after all.
And that's and the beauty of it is, you know, and like we've always harped on about it as well, is obviously try new kit out. I mean, if you do buy something new, get it dirty, get it out there and try it. You know, your new sleeping bag, your new tent system, or whatever it might be. Go out and try it before you go to an event with it, because you might find 100%. Out you think, I don't really need this, or this ain't really what I expected it to be. But then, having said that, if something does go Pete Tong on an event, you know, let's be realistic. You are essentially only there for a day. You know,
correct.
But then on the flip side of that, we've tried to get away from the whole, it's all right, I've got a spare one in the car, you know, because I was terrible with that. Take loads of shit, loads of crates and crates, leave them all in the motor. So it doesn't matter because I've got something in the car and go and get it. Trying to get away from that as well as actually being like more self-reliant, like being out in the field, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, certainly stay away from copying what other people are doing because it looks good. If it looks good, but there is a reason why it looks good or a reason behind it, then try it. You know, get
Crocs.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they don't look good, so
they don't look good, but you know, they're going to stop your feet going down. That's for sure. But no, you know, get kit trialed and ask. You know, before you certainly make any big purchases, like look at asking people why they bought it, what they use it for, are they glad, all that sort of good stuff. Just inform yourself. You know, fire somebody a message or a DM. You know, if they like kit, they'll be more than happy to talk about it, and go from there. I think, and like you say, test it and find out if it's going to work for you before you go to an event. And yeah, you know, but like I say, Lance, like for some people, they don't want to be super self-reliant. Like that's not part of their interest. If it is part of your interest, then yeah, that's brilliant. That's the way I am. It doesn't mean the next person is going to be.
No, exactly that, mate.
You know, but if that is your part of your hobby, your own personal hobby, then yeah, you know, I think that's great. You know, if you don't pack it, you don't have it, and you know, you potentially suffer for it.
I found watching quite a few of the old YouTubers, like the wild campers and like the bushcrafters and that, and some of the way that they some of the things they do when they come to squaring their kit away, and like the minimalist approach they've got to some of it and what they do. I find that quite interesting, and obviously you can pick up tips from that as well. Especially that they're sleeping out, they challenge themselves like the dead of winter in like just a wool jumper, and they make a long fire and stay there for 2 days. I'm just like, fucking unbelievable. I think
really. You can pick up things like that for sure, and that's more for like if you're going to get caught short. I would say like if you live or perhaps work or hobby in areas that are a little bit spicy, then that's certainly very useful. But I would say like what people tend to, I think personally, what I think a misconception about the military is that we're all Bear Grylls survival experts. We're really not. Like you're often not taught that stuff on a really regular basis. You might do a bit of an interest piece here or there, or depending on what your chain of command's like at the time. But we're taught to use certain bits of equipment to make sure that we're like as comfortable as you could be in the field while being effective and not having 3 Bergens to yourself. So it's a bit of a balance. So we're taught to use all these bits of kit to make sure that we can live in the field and then not be an absolute rag to then go out and do the job. So does that mean that you're reliant on certain bits of equipment? Yeah, well, but it's also the way the system is designed, so it's not really the end of the world then, is it?
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Yeah, so yeah, sure.
So JBG Airsoft says fight light, freeze at night.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Cold and bold.
We've all been there. Cold and
bold.
Well, nowadays the fight light is the new kind of doctrine. So like Jesus, I'm going to say it. Back in my day,
you've avoided it. You've avoided it so far.
Well, that was more like you carry everything for everything for every possible eventuality, and then you're just in complete rag and never use it. Whereas nowadays they're trying to cut back on that, one for being effective by not having to have an extra 10 kilos on your back, but also for a bunch of different reasons. And so now fighting light is the kind of the new doctrine. But yeah, there is a downside to it, that you are going to get cold and you're not always going to be comfortable.
Because that is the new approach, isn't it? The fight light thing. But then you still get the likes, so like you mentioned earlier, Dragon Supplies and JJs are still chugging out Gen 4 belt kits like Haribos. Do you know what I mean? So the webbing's still it's still a call for, isn't it?
Well, the whole mainly because I think for JJ certainly being where they are near the infantry battle school down in Brecon, like that is because of promotion courses or trade courses that still require that sort of stuff. So like if you go to the jungle, webbing, if you go on, junior, I think junior NCO and certainly like senior NCO stuff, they're still going to ask for webbing. I think, don't quote me on it, but certainly like Bergens and webbing is still going to be used for certain courses. So there's a market for it, and also certain people that still want to use that kit will still use it. Depending on the sort of tour or mission that you're going to go on. So things like Mali that was just been sort of drawn down now, but I would say that webbing to go to Mali is probably a good idea because you're you're living out of it. If you go to Kenya, you're probably going to be living out your webbing. For Herrick, that wasn't the case because we only stayed out a few nights here or there where you didn't really miss your webbing, and it was more it was just a different time. So yeah, for people like JJs and stuff like that, there's definitely still a market for it for sure.
Yeah, fair play.
JBG Team Myrmidon said that they've got a Viper bag that you can borrow if you want one.
There you go. See. Perfectly adequate.
A
like for like, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No brainer.
Why spend all that money on one bag when you can buy like
19
for the same price? Dan, top 3 morale items, go.
Okay. I would say on a Milsim, I would say a jet boil is probably high up there. That is going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. I've got a feeling Lance might be Oh no, he's getting his soldier.
He's getting his soldier magazine.
I thought he might have had a jet ball.
Copy a soldier, mate.
Yeah, I would say
yes, rightly so.
Rightly so. I'd say, yeah, for time saved and just for convenience, I would say like earphones. Like I'd say like a pair of earphones for like just drowning out the guy next to you snoring away or whatever. And
that's a really good idea, Dan. That
I would say that. And a third one, morale. I'm just trying to think what I would take. I don't know. I mean, it's probably something like, you know, something edible or, you know, something drinkable that you're gonna, you know, so Haribo or jerky or, you know, something that's gonna, you know, when your morale is a little bit low, something that you could eat or drink that's just gonna perk you up a little bit. So probably something like Haribo, I'd say, or jerky, something like that.
Fair play, nice. Yeah, good choices.
Yeah, you can tell you're ex-serving because you've listed what most people would regard as an essential, i.e. the jet boil, as a morale item.
Yeah. Well, again, it wasn't. It was morale when they first come on the scene. It was, you know, it was the new thing to have. Whereas now, yeah, it's probably the go-to purchase, I'd say. Yeah. Or maybe just be the jet boil gas salesman in your kind of harbour or base or whatever, because when that thing runs out, then your morale does hit the floor.
I bet there's fights over that, isn't there? Like fucking literal punch-ups.
That's it.
You don't need to take a jet boil with you. Just take all the gas and be like, haha, right.
Gas and,
Who's cooking for me?
That's it. You're going to be the one in demand.
Right, we're probably coming to the end of the show, so if there's any last questions, get them in now, and we'll try and get through as many as we can. Next week, we've got Mike from the soon-to-be no longer Legion Airsoft. He's going to be joining us on the show. We're going to be talking about basically what's happened, catching up with him, sort of finding out what's next on the cards for him, and sort of just having a bit of a send-off, I guess, in the nicest, without it sounding too morbid. But it'd be nice to sort of catch up with him. Dan, thank you ever so much for coming on the show. It's been absolutely fantastic having you here.
Oh, thank you guys. Pleasure.
A few bits and pieces. And how can people get in touch with you?
I would probably say Instagram's the easiest way. So it's at Hades _Airsoft _. There's just too many underscores in it. So yeah, just send me a DM or it's probably the best way is find me on Instagram.
Cool, nice one.
Perfecto.
In the meantime, I just want to say thank you to Clegg95. He's still hanging on as our one and only Twitch watcher.
Go on, Clegg.
So, big shout out to Clegg.
Big shout out. Second week on the road, mate.
Right, there's a question from John Smith. SA80, A1, A2, or A3, which would you pick?
A3. I like it. I like the SA80. I might get booed for that, but I like it, and the A3 is definitely the way to go.
Fair play. Is that the newest? Has that been taken over by? Is it Heckler and Koch making that now, or was they already making it and someone else is doing it now? I couldn't remember.
I think they took over from the A2. Like they turned the A1 into the A2, and they've pretty much run with it ever since.
Right. Yeah. If
they didn't come up with it in the first place. So yeah.
It does look cool when they got like the UGL and that mounted to it. I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool looking battle rifle. But yeah, it probably for real, it probably weighs a ton.
Yeah, still good though.
Yeah, it's got to be. Fuck it.
Sorry, Clegg95 has just chipped in. Still no idea how it works, but never mind.
Yeah, nobody knows Clegg. It's just it's witchcraft. Nobody knows.
There's a couple comments as well I just wanted to bring up. So last one from Team Myrmidon was, I found Milsims are a familiar home to former squaddies. We're usually the more chilled out ones who just crack on. Which I
agree with
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Silly Gilly says they should make a TV series on the AI 500. Lots of good material in there.
Most of it's supplied by you, Silly.
Oh, right. So thanks again, Dan, for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Yes, it's been wicked, mate. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, thank you very much. Pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
For anyone watching, you can obviously leave us a review if you'd like to. You can do so on our Facebook page or on our Apple Podcasts. That's the one you can leave reviews on. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do so on our email at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is at November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and our website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the show. Again, join us next week for Mike from Legion, 8 p.m. on Wednesday. In the meantime, gents, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Stay NoFo.
Stay NoFo. Ciao. And all that
Ciao,
jazz.
See you later.